बहुत अच्छा।
India, incredible India.
दुनिया में प्यार जब बरसे, ना जाने दिल ये क्यों तरसे। हाय इस दिल को कैसे समझाऊं, पागल को कैसे मैं मनाऊं।
है दिल है मुश्किल जीना यहाँ, जरा हट के जरा बच के, ये है बम्बे मेरी जान। हा हा हो ही हा। कहीं बिल्डिंग कहीं ट्राम में, कहीं मोटर कहीं मिलता है यहाँ सब कुछ, एक मिलता नहीं दिल। कहीं बिल्डिंग कहीं ट्राम में, कहीं मोटर कहीं मिलता है यहाँ सब कुछ, एक मिलता नहीं दिल। इंसान का नहीं कहीं नामो निशान, जरा हट के जरा बच के, ये है बॉम्बे मेरी जान। ऐ दिल मुश्किल जीना यहाँ, जरा हट के जरा बच के, ये है बॉम्बे मेरी जान। कहीं सट्टा कहीं पत्ता, कहीं चोरी कहीं रेस, कहीं डाका कहीं फाका, कहीं ठोकर कहीं ठेस। कहीं सट्टा कहीं पत्ता, कहीं चोरी कहीं रेस, कहीं डाका कहीं फाका, कहीं ठोकर कहीं ठेस। बेकारों के हैं कई काम यहाँ।
इश्क में दो जहां वार दूं, मेरे वादे पे कर ले यकीन। कह रही है ज़मीं, कह रहा आसमां, तेरे जैसा दूजा नहीं।
In India, it's causing a movement of people like 24-year-old Ranjit Kumar Singh from rural villages to big cities such as New Delhi.
I came to Delhi so that I can earn some money and give my kids new opportunities.
Experts say that within 20 years, India will overtake China as the most populous nation on the planet. Ranjit was a farmer in Bihar in northeast India, also known as the breadbasket of the country. His story is one of more than 300 million stories of people relocating and making sacrifices in search of a better life for their children. He didn't want them to grow up and become farmers like he had.
In the village, we don't have many schools and they can't get a full education.
But movement of migrants like Ranjit is a burden on already stretched state resources. This year's census clocked India's population at a staggering 1.21 billion. Information from the census prompted the government to increase resources for social services and health care. This is good news for migrants like Ranjit. But back in his village, living conditions remain dire. As a loyal son, Ranjit continues helping his family with living expenses. Now he's encouraging some of his relatives to join him in New Delhi, where the demand for construction workers is high.
I'm bringing everyone from the village here so they can learn and they too can teach their kids.
Ranjit's younger sibling, Ranashish, decided to follow in his footsteps, moving to New Delhi. But the city's ability to sustain this rapid population shift will be the deciding factor in whether he stays or returns to his village in Bihar.
Often referred to as an economic powerhouse, India has sustained rapid growth for the last 2 decades. During the recent global financial crisis, most countries of the world suffered. Stock markets fell, financial institutions collapsed, and even the wealthiest of the world's nations needed to be rescued. India, though it was affected by the crisis, recovered quickly.
The difference between other countries and India is that the recovery was very rapid. The impact was short-lived, and this was because of basically 2 things. One, the Reserve Bank of India put in place immediately stimulatory policies, and so did the government. The government got a bit lucky, if you wish. They had fiscal policies that were already stimulatory. That helped boost India's economy during the crisis, and that's one of the big reasons why it recovered as quickly as it did.
Today, India's economy is as diverse as the people that live in it. There are a number of occupations ranging from traditional village farming to modern industries. Though still famous for its booming film industry, India has reached star status in other areas too, such as the high-tech industry and the service industry.
India has followed a very different path of development relative to most other economies. The traditional path of development is where you go from being an agriculture-led economy to being heavy in terms of industry and then move into services. Now, India skipped that middle stage altogether and went straight from agriculture, and in fact agriculture is still very important for the economy, but services have become more important. Now, this is not necessarily a good thing. In large part, why this happened is because there were certain restraints in the Indian economy. So large industries in particular are subject to a lot of difficulties in terms of the operating environment. So almost by default, the services sector had to take on the burden of growth, and the services sector, which is much less tightly controlled in terms of labor market regulations or other government regulations, had the space to expand.
With so much emphasis being placed on the service sector, won't the growth in the other sectors be affected? Recently, there has been an urgent call by policymakers to rebalance global growth. But what does this rebalancing mean in the Indian context?
India is quite contrarian to other emerging economies in the sense that our drivers of growth have been largely domestic. Exports, for example, constitute only 15% of our GDP. So in terms of rebalancing, actually we should be going in the other direction, increasing our external sector, increasing our exports, for example, even as we continue to emphasize domestic drivers, that is private consumption and investment. The second rebalancing we have to do is to shift from services to manufacturing. As much as we continue to emphasize services, we need to place greater emphasis on the manufacturing sector for both creating jobs as well as reaching double-digit rates of growth.
Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
more than half of its population still lives in slums between the cracks of the official city. The biggest of these slums is called Dharavi. With an estimated 800,000 inhabitants, it's one of the most densely populated areas in the world. Once Dharavi was outside the city limits. Nowadays, it's at the heart of a constantly growing metropolis, flanked by traffic arteries and right next door to Mumbai's new financial hub. The former marsh has turned into prime real estate.
Through the 19th century and subsequently, migrants from different parts of the country and those evicted from the island city of Mumbai moved into these marshy lands and created Dharavi as it is today. There are potters from Saurashtra and Gujarat, tanners from Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, food processors, embroidery workers and recyclers, all in this city to earn a livelihood. They've managed to make Dharavi a flourishing marketplace that it is today.
This is no ordinary slum. Dharavi's location is a gold mine. Situated right in the heart of India's financial capital, it offers a huge commercial potential that the government now wants to unlock. The Dharavi redevelopment project is the brainchild of architect Mukesh Mehta. It offers a win-win solution where slum dwellers will be provided 225 square foot apartments free of cost in high-rise buildings, and the freed up land will be sold by developers.
The strategy is that you use the land as the resource, you improve the quality of life of people, you harness the human resources, think of slum dwellers as net assets rather than liabilities, and develop their capabilities to the maximum so that they become net contributors to the economy.
The project seeks to tear down the slum and replace it with residential towers, industrial parks, golf courses, a sports complex, and hotels. Grime is set to give way to glitter.
We've divided Dharavi into 5 sectors. Each developer would get one sector, which is approximately 100 acres of land. The developer will have to rehouse each and every one of those families, businesses, industries, etc. within the same general area. Then they'll have to provide amenities like schools, colleges, hospitals, parks, etc. In view of that, they'll get development rights. So for every square foot that they build for amenities or renewable components or slums, they'll get 1.33 square feet to sell.
While the government is in the process of shortlisting developers, the slum residents live in uncertainty. Many question the official logic that land could be given out to developers who would sell part of it at a profit after creating free housing for slum residents.
The whole Dharavi is vibrant, lively, basically because it is the employment. 70% of people's employment is self-employed. Even the redevelopment, which is going to only multi-story, improving the housing, we totally oppose that. You improve the environment, improve the living condition, improve the livelihood, enhance skill enhancement. That's what we are talking about. Not the top down, we wanted bottom up.
The project is facing delays amid protests by locals. Dharavi houses 5,000 small recycling units and leather tanneries that generate an annual turnover of $400 million. The project plans to relocate polluting industries outside the city, while units larger than 225 square feet will lose out. 55% of Mumbai's population lives in slums like Dharavi, and finding them a low-cost housing solution which meets their needs is fraught with difficulties. One of the main objections is down simply to the size of accommodation offered. Raj Narayan Gaur pays a rent of just $60. He supports recent demands to increase the size of the proposed free apartments from 225 square feet to 400 square feet.
It will affect the whole of Mumbai because Dharavi provides cheap labor and the cheap stay for those labor. And once there is no place called Dharavi, it will be very hard for the Mumbaikars to get labor. Once the people have to travel from 50 kilometers to 100 kilometers, how can they come for work over here?
Mumbai can be made slum-free, then any city of India can be made slum-free.
ये प्रतिनिधि हैं, बोल रहे रिस्पेक्ट के नाम पर खाली लोगों को बेवकूफ बनाएंगे.
I contest the manner in which he and our government is going about this.
It raises expectations among the poor, which when they are belied, can only lead to a serious social problem.
आप देखिए खान पानी ऐसा जब शर्म आता है ना भाई तुम्हें पानी नहीं दे सकते हमारे घर में अच्छी बात करना कोई भी होता है या कोई भी सुन के जाता है
Life in the slum poses many challenges. Homes are overcrowded, water is not easy to access, toilets are few and families struggle to get by. Knowledge of healthcare and nutrition is limited and families do not receive proper medical attention. Conditions such as these make the urban poor vulnerable to a host of health problems. Problems during pregnancy, childbirth and early childhood cause women and children to fall ill, land in the hospital and too frequently die. These problems are preventable.
सड़क पर ऐसे बच्चे बहुत सारी समस्याओं को झेलते हैं। सबसे पहले तो ये जो सड़क पे बड़े बड़े दादा लोग होते हैं, क्रिमिनल एलिमेंट्स होते हैं, इन बच्चों को मिसयूज करते हैं, गलत काम के लिए प्रेरित करते हैं। इसके अतिरिक्त उन्हें पुलिस की पिटाई लगती है, क्रिमिनल एलिमेंट्स और भी जो होते हैं उनसे जूझना पड़ता है, फिर नशे के आदी लोगों के संगत में आ जाते हैं।
Then there are dysfunctional families, alcoholic mother or alcoholic father, stepfather, mother or stepfather, and lot of times children want to study but the parents want them to work, and there is child abuse. So life becomes so traumatic for them that not knowing where they are going, they just board a bus or a train and arrive at a metro station.
According to WHO, India has the world's largest number of sexually abused children, with a child below 16 years raped every 155th minute, a child below 10 every 13th hour, and 1 in every 10 children sexually abused at any point of time. We believe that child sexual abuse is not only a violation of a child's body, but of the trust implicit in a caregiving relationship. This violation can have a significant impact on how the child, as a victim and later on as an adult survivor, sees and experiences the world. The effects of child sexual abuse can be damaging but need not be permanent.